Do you know how to pronounce the underlined sounds perfectly? Anything, yellow, worry, house, mnemonic. Many English learners get one or more of these sounds wrong. Welcome back to my free spoken English course. This is lesson number 2, and we're looking at the pronunciation of what we call nasal sounds and semi-consonants. There are 8 English nasal sounds and semi-consonant sounds, represented by the symbols you can see here. We're going to learn how to say these sounds through a short story. Which sounds do you hear in the story to represent each of these? First of all, we're going to look at the sound This sound comes up many times in the story. Reading, anything, think, learning, nothing. How do you make this sound? You make it by blocking air through putting your tongue to the top of your mouth and forcing the air to come through your nose instead. If you put a finger underneath your nose and feel air, then you're making the sound correctly. Let's learn a bit more about this sound. Can you say it in these words? I'll say it, then you repeat. Think. Thing. Uncle. So this sound happens often with the NG combination of letters. And if that happens at the end of the word, then the G letter is silent or nearly silent. Listen to these. Sing. Thing. You'll just hear the tiniest click at the end of sing and thing. And that's just where you're releasing the tongue from its position from the top of your mouth, but no air is coming through, nothing is voiced at that time. So there's like a little click that comes in at the end. Sing, thing, almost unnoticeable. However, this G sound is often voiced after in the middle of the word. Angry, longer, and there you can hear a clear G sound coming out. Here's the next sound, R. R. We make this sound by moving our lips outwards. We put them close together, but not completely closed, so a very tiny bit of air and voice can get through in the beginning. You should feel almost like a vibration and a tiny bit of air in front of your lips. And your lips have gone forward here. That's really important. Keep them wide and forward. If you don't do that, it may end up sounding like a different sound. And then sometimes you may release completely. R, R. And it appears in the words that are underlined here. I have a terrible memory. I've said that with emphasis. We'd normally say that faster like this. I have a terrible memory. When reading anything, I think I am learning, yet I remember nothing. So the R sound is in all of these. So practice making those, record yourself saying it, and check if you're doing it the way I've recommended. Here's a few more words that you could use to practice. I'll exaggerate slightly so you can see what I'm doing. Really, rot, rich. Okay, listen to me again, then you can practice. Really, rot, rich. You also need to know this about the R sound. There are regional variations at the end of a word when there is vowel plus R. In America, it's pronounced differently to most parts of England. In fact, there's a difference in the United Kingdom between north and south. In the south of the United Kingdom, where I come from, the R at the end of a word after a vowel is usually not pronounced at all. I would say after, actor, no R at all. But in the USA and some parts of the north of the UK, there will be a hint of a R at the end. After, actor, a hint of a R at the end. Next, let's look at a similar sound, W. And this is the one that often gets confused between the R sound, R, and this one, W. What's the difference? Here, the lips get sucked in really tight. You don't suck them in tight with the R. With the R, the lips stay fairly wide. But with W, you try and suck your lips in as tight as they can, almost like you're blowing a kiss. W. Little bit of air gets through and then release completely. And it's in this word here, when. When reading anything. It also appears in these words. Listen to me, then repeat. Why? Worry. That's a difficult one because you go quickly from w to r. Worry. While. WR combinations often have a silent w, and we just use the r instead. So these words are wrong and rewrite, because the W before the R in right is silent. This sound is L. L. So you put your tongue at the top of your mouth above your teeth. The tongue touches the gums behind your teeth, and it blocks most of the air, but not all. L. If you put your finger to your mouth here, you'll feel some air getting through, but most of it is blocked. L. And then you release completely. L. L. And it's in this word here, learning. Learning. Try saying these words with the L sound. Listen to me, then repeat. Learn. Yellow. Silly. There are two different types of L sounds in English though. Sometimes we call these the light and the dark. Strong and the weak might be an easy way of describing them. When the letter L comes at the beginning of a word, then it tends to be the stronger version. Lie, like, ladder. You do everything I just told you to do. Put your tongue on the gums behind your teeth at the top, let some air through and then release. Lie, like, ladder. But the dark version is when the L sound comes at the end of the word. Now, very often with English speakers, when we make this sound, we'll start the L sound, but we won't finish it. Remember, there were two parts. The first part was moving your tongue to the top of your mouth to block air and let a sound through. L. But then there was also the release. L, L. So two parts. When it comes at the end of the word, we start to do the first part, but we don't do the release. We don't do the second part. Steal. Steal. My tongue goes to the top of my gums behind my mouth, but it doesn't release. It's not steal. Steal. No, it's a steal. I make the first part of the sound, but not the second. It's even more complicated when you have a consonant afterwards. Milk. Milk. So my tongue goes to that position, but doesn't release because it goes straight into the k. It's the k that releases instead. Milk. Milk. Let's move on. This is a y sound. It's represented by the letter J, but in pronunciation, if you look at most dictionaries, this actually represents what's normally known as a Y. 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 And it appears in the word yet in our story. Yet. Try it in these words. Yet. Yellow. United. It's almost a vowel sound. There's very little restriction of air, but the tongue moves up at the back just to restrict the flow a little bit. And as you release the tongue down, it makes that yeah, yeah, yeah. So there's no blocking of air at any point. There's just a narrowing of air and then an opening. Yeah. Here's some more things to know about yeah. These letter combinations sometimes take the y sound as well. So it's not just Y, there are some other combinations. Sometimes U sounds have the y. Universe, mute. Hear the y in both of those sounds. When we combine E and U at the beginning of words, that often represents y, such as Europe. And also I-O when it comes after a consonant. Onion. Now for some sounds that are a little bit more straightforward. M. This is another nasal sound. All you have to do here is close your lips, push the air through your nose. You'll feel some air coming out from your nose, not from your mouth. If you do that, you know you're doing it correctly. And then release it all at the end. M. And there were many M sounds in this text. I have a terrible memory. When I am reading anything, I think I am learning, yet I remember nothing. So M is in all of these sounds. It's also in these. Listen to me say the words and then repeat. Milk. amount, emerge. Now, m also has a harder and softer version. At the beginning of words, we have the harder version, milk, mop, and also between vowels, amazed. Here we use the full force of closing our lips and then releasing powerfully. But if it comes before another consonant, sometimes we take the soft version. Listen to these. Tomb, empty. So here the closing of the lips and opening, the release is actually quite subtle. Tomb, empty. The release is very, very slight. So you get a slight m sound, but it's not as significant as in the harder version. And the m is silent altogether at the beginning of the word mnemonics. Some words that come from ancient Greece have this characteristic. A similar sound is n. N. Here your tongue blocks all of the air, but it's touching behind your teeth. N. N. All of the air gets forced through your nose, and then there is a release. So it's not like l, where some air gets through. No air gets through at all here. N. And this appears in the underlined words in the story, as you can see here. I have a terrible memory. When reading anything, I think I am learning, yet I remember nothing. So it's not all of the N letters. Some of those are represented by ng. It's some of them. And it's the ones you can see here. Listen to me saying these words, then practice saying them after me. None. Knock. Mnemonic. N appears with these letter combinations. As we've seen, the N letter often, not always, but also we can have a GN, which is silent at the where the G is silent at the start of words, and you just have the N. So gnome, gnat, and also KN. The K is silent. Knock, night. However, the N can be silent after the M. So autumn. No pronunciation of the N. And the last sound is h, which is very similar to a vowel, but there's just a puff of air which accompanies the sound to stop it being completely silent. It's in this word here, I have. So we just have the puff of air and then have. It appears in words such as these. Have. You say it. How. Hi. Most words beginning with use the sound, as we've seen. Have, how. But in some words beginning with HO, the H is silent, such as hour, honest. The H is completely silent. There are a couple of words as well with the E, but most of them are HO. These are words borrowed from French. In these cases, we don't pronounce the sound. In the middle of the word, the is usually pronounced when surrounded by vowels, so behave, EHA, so we pronounce the H sound, and cahoot, AHO, pronounce the in these words. But different rules apply when a consonant comes before, and these are various. So ghost, the H is completely silent. Enough, GH makes a F sound. Arch, we have ch out of the CH. Sometimes the CH can be a K instead. Rhythm, so here RH, no H sound at all. TH is represented by th. Phone, we have an F here. And when, the H is virtually indistinguishable here. Most dictionaries will simply list it as WEN without the H sound. So that was lesson 2 on this short free spoken English course. Make sure you like this video and subscribe to the channel so that YouTube sends you the next video, because they're coming out every week. And to accelerate your English learning of advanced English speaking and pronunciation rules, make sure you get my course, which you can download from the description below this video. It contains 8 hours of my teaching on stress, pronunciation, intonation, rhythm, connected speech, sounds and spellings, silent letters, and regional variations. On pronunciation, there's one individual video for each sound, so you can get lots more practice of the sounds I've introduced to you today.